across the way that you can conduct a campaign like this. And I think that it should apply to all politicians involved in this.
Sure, but the argument is it wasn't very positive leading up to what happened, the tragedy in Manchester. So,
well, I think that the arguments weren't made in the right way. I mean, clearly something has to be done about social care, and it was right to take that on.
All right, Polly, they're talking about Brexit today. That's been sort of centre stage in the campaign. And Brexit, the Liberal Democrats hoped would be the issue that would help them cut through a little bit. Promise of a second vote, some kind of referendum on any deal. But it hasn't really connected, has it?
No, I think the election shifting away from Brexit has been quite problematic for the Lib Dems, and also there are areas in which, being the anti-Brexit party, areas of historic support for the Lib Dems just doesn't actually work. That doesn't mean the Lib Dems can't make gains in other parts of the country, in London perhaps, around places like Cambridge, where people are very sceptical, you know, as I am, about the devastation that is going to be brought on our economy by Brexit. But in a way, I think Theresa May is adopting the right strategy, trying to get this conversation back to Brexit, because that does work for her. Hopefully that might actually work for the Liberal Democrats as well, because I think these conversations today, both speeches actually, from Corbyn and May, have reminded us quite how complicated, how difficult, and how kind of dangerous the whole negotiation process is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, you were pretty bullish about Jeremy Corbyn a few seconds ago. Brexit, not their strongest subject, it has to be said. A lot of people would argue. And today he said that no deal is better than a bad deal, and that is the Tory mantra, and that is the wrong way to go, which suggests that he'd settle for a bad deal.
No, I don't think so at all. His speech today in Basildon, this sort of, you know, heart of Essex man, you know, I've just come back from the campaign trail in Dagenham, and Brexit is still a massive issue there. But what's actually quite interesting, in lots of seats where we're going to decide this election, which I think is the battle between Labour and the Tories fighting to pull UKIP supporters back to them in about 50 or so seats, if they don't manage to do that, if Labour don't manage to do that, and that's why I put jobs as the most highest priority. I think the problem is today, you see the Tories coming out, Open Democracy, a think tank, saying the corporate donors that have fed into their campaign are all people that are set to benefit from Brexit, but Brexit at the expense of ordinary working people. And I think Jeremy's quite clearly said, we're going to put ordinary British people first rather than global corporations and the super rich, and that's starting to actually have traction when you couple that with a manifesto which clearly says we're going to take back control of our country for ordinary people. I tell you what, that is breaking on the doorsteps in a big way, and people are thinking the Tories have now been exposed on it.
All right, you've all got new jobs. You're advising the current leaders. Joanne, week to go, 7 days exactly before the poll. In a few words, what's your big advice to Theresa May?
Stick to Brexit, stick to explaining her vision that we heard outside Number 10, which was a very persuasive take on conservatism.
All right, okay. Polly?
Focus on the winnable seats, because actually this election, it isn't about the air war, it's about all of those different marginals where I think, you know, this YouGov polling nonsense is basically not representative of what's really going on, and you have to think about the ground war.
Sam, YouGov polling nonsense you just heard there, with Labour closing in on
I'm
the polls.
sceptical about it, actually, to be honest as well. I think, you know, wait and see for some future polls. The key thing is to get out on the ground, and Labour's putting, you know, tens of thousands of people out. I heard today that like 50,000 people have signed up already for election day. I think the key thing is Jeremy's got to keep doing what we're doing. This is about bread and butter issues for millions in this country whose lives are not getting better under the Tories.
All right. Sam Tarry, Polly Mackenzie, Joanne Naylor, it's good to see you all. Thanks for joining us. Thank you. Now, you're watching the BBC News at 5, the top stories this lunchtime, this afternoon even, and with exactly a week to go before polling day, Brexit takes centre stage as party leaders attend rallies across Britain, canvassing support. President Trump is facing mounting pressure from the EU and China not to abandon America's commitment to the Paris deal on climate change. He will announce his decision later on today. Former FBI Director James Comey, who was fired by President Trump, is to testify to the Intelligence Committee in open session on the administration's links with Russia. And a quick look at the markets. Blimey, a lot of green there. The FTSE and the DAX, London and Frankfurt both up. The Dow and the Nasdaq in early trading in the United States also looking pretty good. Now, Now, tickets for Ariana Grande's concert for Manchester bombing victims have been sold in less than 20 minutes. The US pop singer will return to the city on Sunday to perform at the Old Trafford cricket ground. Take That, Coldplay and Justin Bieber will be among the performers. In the past hour, ticket sellers Ticketmaster have released a statement saying that they have received over 10,000 fraudulent requests for free tickets set aside for the people who were at the Manchester Arena last Monday when it was attacked. Well, let's talk to our correspondent Fiona Trott, who's outside the Old Trafford cricket ground in Manchester for us now. Fiona, over to you.
That's right, Clive. Yes, we've even been seeing today online that tickets are being sold for an elevated price, £200 or £400. Genuine sales, though, are expected to raise around £2 million for people affected by the bomb attack. And we heard from the We Love Manchester Emergency Fund today. They said they're going to start releasing that money very, very soon. A flat rate payment of £20,000 for bereaved families, between £3,500 and £10,000 for people who've been in hospitals. The concert due to take place here on Sunday. I want to introduce you to Nicole Smith. You were at the original Ariana Grande concert when the bomb attack happened, so you were able to get one of the free tickets today. What was your thought process in deciding whether or not you were going to come? Because a lot of people have said they found that quite hard.
It was definitely a hard decision. I mean, one of the crowds was like one of my main worries, and I was a bit nervous with thinking about the security, but at the same time I know they're there to help, so it was quite comforting at the same time. But overall I decided to go because I absolutely love concerts and I don't want one event to stop me from going and doing what I love. Plus I want to pay my respects to those that were injured and those that were killed in the event.
And how difficult was it for you to get that free ticket? Because a lot of people telling us today that it was a real process. They found it very, very difficult. Was it easy for you?
Well, I was up quite early in the morning, so it was pretty much when the email got sent out. But I didn't have any issues, but I do know some friends who did have some real issues, especially with the free tickets as well. And it was mainly because they went when the general sales were on, and I know that the site crashed and there was lots of issues that way, yes.
And you said that you wanted to come here on Sunday to show your respect too for people who are affected, other people who are affected by the bomb attack. So what do you think when you hear stories of tickets being sold for an elevated price or